What up?
Yo, you're back.
I am back.
The Magic players are ready for their daily, weekly, wheneverly dose of Yu-Gi-Oh! Creator meets the absolute nonsense that is our game.
Oh, they didn't cancel me after putting Armageddon in the Power 9? That's good. Glad to hear that.
Dude, I think they believe Armageddon's in the Power 9 spiritually. I think that's what they believe. I think the Commander players especially are vibing with you. They're like, yep, you're right. You are 100% right on that. So, I enjoyed showing you some old cards and showing you the price of some of these old cards a lot.
Oh,
so
great.
I'm going to introduce you to something that we've alluded to, but I've never done a whole video about before.
Okay.
So, this is going to be SEMO versus the reserve list.
Okay.
So the reserve list in Magic the Gathering, it's kind of a dirty word. It's controversial in a number of ways, but it is summarized on mtgfandom.com like this. The reserve list is a list of Magic the Gathering cards that will never be reprinted in order to preserve their value on the secondary market. The reprint policy featuring the reserve list was first published by Wizards of the Coast on March 4th, 1996. It was revised in 2002 and again in 2010. In November 2022, alongside their article back-end update, many articles, something, including the reprint policy site and main references to the reserve list, they were actually removed. So, there's a little controversy. That's current events. A bunch of articles referencing the reserve list got removed when Wizards took down a huge amount of their old site backend in 2022. So a lot of this information is only preserved in our hearts, minds, screenshots, and some backup people who have taken articles and things off the site somehow. So it's interesting that they removed it because there are conspiracy theories about the reserve list and if they'll actually break it. But the idea is that reserved cards are cards that will never be printed again in a functionally identical form.
Interesting. Okay.
So they don't just strap a different art on it. They don't just have a card that does the same thing. All right. So that is very interesting. And it was only a bunch of cards from the first few years that got added to the reserve list. And there were some weird things. We talked about the cut from beta and alpha and unlimited to revised. Mm-hmm. All of the rares, I believe, from that time are reserve list, including several of the rares in revised as well. However, as they released other sets like Ice Age, Fallen Empire's Homelands, they actually said they were going to reprint 25% of the rares, but not reprint 75% of the rares to try to preserve value, which is really funny, and we'll get to why soon.
Okay.
But all the cards I am showing you today are on the reserve list.
Okay.
All of them. And
you sure? I don't know. Last time,
Yep.
I don't know if I believe you when you say things, CGB.
I did research. I used a notebook, and that makes me invincible, as people who watch your channel know. All right. So all of these are on the reserve list.
Okay.
And all of them will not be reprinted.
Okay.
I have picked one from each of the first 10 expansion sets and the core set of Magic the Gathering.
Okay.
And this is going to be a fun tour through the years of basically learning about print runs and playability and just where the game went in its first several years.
This is going to be miserable. This is
going to be great. This is going to be wonderful. The roller coaster ride is going to be impressive. All right. So we're going to go back to Alpha. Okay. And we're going to be going off the Alpha card. I want you to evaluate the card, say whether or not you think it saw play, whether or not you think it's good. And then I also want we're going to do it. No. We're going to guess the price.
This is going to be, all this is going to be is me guessing prices for the next 10 videos because my guessing is just horrific after the last. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah. It's more content that way.
All right. First one. You said this is an Alpha card, correct?
This is, we are looking at Alpha. Okay. The most notoriously small print, really first wave of Magic the Gathering cards that there just aren't many out there.
Now, before we get into this, do I get a price floor for any of this, like the last video, or no? Is it just we all over the place?
Sure, I'll give you a price floor.
Okay.
No, I'm not even sure I can do that. 65 cents.
Oh, great. Okay, so basically nothing. Fantastic. Okay. All right. This is Force Field. This is a 3-mana poly artifact. I don't know why it's a poly artifact or what that means, but okay. 1 mana, lose only 1 life to an unblocked creature. Lose only 1 life to an unblocked creature. So what does that, I'm assuming, does that mean if you're, okay, wait, hold on. Lose only 1 life to an unblocked, does that mean like if you're getting attacked, you're only taking 1 life?
Yeah.
Okay, the wording on that is a bit weird. They could have just like said that, but okay. I also find it odd that, granted, to be fair, Magic is like the granddaddy of all card games, right? It's so weird that there isn't like a set, insignia or like letters or anything. You just have to know that this is an alpha card. That's just like, I guess the fact if it doesn't have one, like maybe that's how you know. But it's just funny that there aren't like any markings or anything like that. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So you pay 1 to lose only 1 life to an unblocked creature. You're paying 3 mana to play this. This stays out. This is alpha, so this is like the first sets of cards. 1 life to an unblocked creature. So like if you're getting hit by something big, you pay 1 mana, and now you're only taking 1 damage instead of taking like 5 or 7 or 8 or 10. And you could do that multiple times. It doesn't say like you tap this or anything. So hypothetically, if you had a bunch of open mana, you could just nullify a lot of damage. Fun fact, that is what poly artifact means. Back in the day, there were different types of artifacts, and a poly artifact is one you can activate over and over. Oh, I see. Okay, so when it says mono, because I think I've seen mono artifact before, that just means it's like a one-time use sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting.
Well, kind of. So there are some that are ongoing. I think mono artifact actually it requires to be tapped, and there's another artifact that just has an ongoing effect, but when it's tapped, it does nothing. It's weird. It's weird. Poly artifact you can activate many times. I know what that means.
Gotcha. So it's weird because I have to think of this in like the frame of Magic's first set. And now I know that like the Power 9 is in Magic's first set. So you're comparing this to some of those cards. And then it's like okay, can I ask this question? Do I get to know how many cards were printed in Alpha? Like not as like the total like set number. I'm sorry. Like the total number of cards in Alpha, not the print run. That's what I'm asking.
Sure. It's 295 cards.
That's actually quite a lot. I mean, it is the first set of a card game, so I'd hope there's a lot of variety. But that's actually more than I was expecting. I think Yu-Gi-Oh's first set only has, I want to say 100 for context. If it's over 100, it's not by much. So much smaller comparatively. But, we play the inferior game, according to everyone watching this. So 295 cards means that there's a wide variety of different things in the entire set. And like the Power 9's in the set, and that's all crazy, which means if you have a Black Lotus, you could play this like on your first turn. And now it's like, and if you have like some Moxes, then like the Moxes can pay for this. So I can see this being annoying, especially like if there isn't artifact removal, if that hasn't been invented yet. Maybe it was, if it's the first set ever. But I can see there is
artifact removal in the first set.
Okay. I mean, even if there is, it's like you have to draw it, right? To like get good, I guess. I don't think this is like horrible. Like obviously compared to the Power 9, it's like nowhere close. And I don't really know like what the scale is that I'm working with here. For like a card of a first set of a trading card game, like this seems okay. It seems pretty like decent, all things considered. Especially like, yes, there is artifact removal, but that could also be few and far between. And if it's color restricted on top of it too, your opponent has to be playing that specific color. So I think this is decent. Like, I could see this like seeing play, I guess. But again, like, I don't like the range is so wide here because I don't really know what other alpha cards there are. But I could see this like definitely if you're playing more control as a way to just make sure you get to see more turns. Like that seems pretty good. Because you have like Ancestral Recall and stuff too, so you can just draw like a million cards.
That is in the set as well.
Yeah. See, I remember some of these cards. Okay, so yeah, I think this is like, I don't think this is the best card in the set, obviously, but I don't think this is like bad. I think this is okay. I think some decks would want to play this. And I can see it being annoying. Now, what is it worth? Oh, geez. Okay, so this is alpha. I feel like it's on the reserved list.
I also feel like you have some context left over from last one. So let's do the card part first. And then you can guess the price after we flesh out the card. All right. So Force Field. Okay, talking about whether or not a card was played back then, I'm going to just give a caveat. Most of us just played with what we have.
Right, sure.
Like there wasn't a lot of options. Yeah, it's the first set ever. Was there even
organized play at that point? Probably not, I'd imagine.
By the
like locals,
like late in the term of like unlimited and stuff, this would happen, right?
So this is like play with your friends.
And then in revised, it definitely took off, but at that point, this was not in print. So yeah, this is figuring out the game, and there were definitely cards that were more desirable than others. Force Field was definitely a card that when somebody played it, it is a rare rarity, so you didn't see it often. And when somebody played it, you were like, oh, what? Because most of our understanding of Magic was, okay, I got my Shivan Dragon. It's my big bad dragon. I got my 5/5 dragon. And Force Field's like, I take one. And they're like, well, this is going to take forever. This is horrible. Force Field is one of many cards that just hated on creatures. And you're going to see, Magic came out of the gates with cool creatures and then hated them out of existence, basically.
That's funny.
So, Force Field was a very desirable card back in the day. Yeah. And it did not get reprinted after Unlimited. It did not make it to revised. And it's going to be a very hard to find card.
So definitely on the upper end, too, of playability as far as like playability is concerned. So we have a highly playable alpha card, not Power 9 level, but still quite up there. This does have its other printings, of course, in the other sets, but this is the alpha version.
And I'll even narrow it down. We got the last thing I could find sold was a grade 8.
Ooh, okay. So that's pretty crisp. I think an 8 is pretty crisp, all things considered. Yep. What would an Alpha 8 Force Field go for? Highly desirable card. I don't know in like the Magic lore if it's, as iconic, if like Force Field is iconic as like a Shivan Dragon or the Power 9. Like it obviously doesn't have like the same like shock value to a lot of people, but maybe in the Magic community it does. Like maybe it is like, oh yeah, like, for us, Mirror Force, right? Mirror Force was iconic in the anime for being able to destroy all your opponent's monsters. So like, is this your guys' Mirror Force? It's not the Dark Magician or the Blue Eyes White Dragon, like your Black Lotus, but it's still like another one of those iconic cards that could still deem like a hefty price tag. Alpha. God, if it's got to be from Alpha, it's got to be worth something. And if it's like highly playable as well, is this card still is this card still playable anywhere today?
If Probably you had to. Are we talking about legality or
legality?
Okay, legality. This card is legal in Vintage and Commander.
So you could. Oh, after the Time Twister, I got reamed for that. Okay, so again, it's not Power 9, so I don't think it's in that territory. But you could, and if I've learned anything from your videos, is that Commander players are unhinged. They will pay ridiculous prices for pieces of cardboard. Are Commanders playing Force Field? That's a different story. Like, it's not Time Twister. I think Time Twister's still insane, relatively. I think it was Time Twister. I don't know. But we might be in that territory, though. I feel like the problem is, though, this card relatively isn't like nearly as powerful, but it could still fetch a pretty decent price just because it still has a lot of really good things going for it. I think this might set a benchmark here. So I'm willing to start off a bit high, especially because it's alpha. You said this is a rare as well?
Yep.
Ooh. Now, for context, was like Black Lotus and the Power 9 also rare?
Yep.
Okay, so they're all in the same slot, which means it's fighting for that. Now, if this were like a common, I think this would definitely change the price quite a bit. But since it's a rare, that means it's even harder to get. Ooh, we might have to go pretty high. I think Alpha 8 Force Field. Let's go for $300.
$300.
$300.
$1,136.
Oh my God. I thought that was low too, but like at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. Like,
Woo!
I don't know how much of a premium people put on the Power 9, right? That's like, because like, I think the Power 9 compared to a lot of the other alpha rares might just be at like a multiple premium, not even just like, oh, this is like double what another rare would be in this set. So, okay, because I thought about going like higher. Like, I was thinking like 600-700, but I'm like, but it's not like in that caliber, and like some of those were like multiple grand. So the fact that this is over a grand, I would not have gone over a grand. That was not even in my wheelhouse for this, but wow. Okay. You guys are crazy. You guys are wild.
So looking specifically at Alpha Force Field, and you're gonna feel this as we go, like it is very much an availability issue. This is more of a collector's piece than anything else.
Okay.
I've never had somebody play this against me in Commander. If they did, I think everybody would be like, "Oh, money bags! Oh shit!" You know, like, damn. Like,
you're playing it to flex. You're not playing it because it's good.
There's also kind of a social contract in Commander of things that drag the game out versus things that move the game to a conclusion because of the amount of time games can take. So it's a special kind of player who would run a card like Force Field because it doesn't do anything in competitive Commander. Competitive Commander is all about I win the game combo, because actually dealing that much damage to three other players is hard.
So it's Yu-Gi-Oh! Got it.
Yeah, so Force Field does not... Maybe Yu-Gi-Oh! Needs to be 4 players. Force Field does not work well in competitive Commander. If you play it in casual Commander, you're just kind of telling everybody their creatures suck. Nobody likes this. So
you would play this.
Maybe I would. Maybe
you like
I would.
seeing people in misery and agony. This seems like your type of card.
But not my friends and not to their face. I like really unknown people over the internet or just other online personalities. I really like seeing them miserable. But
makes sense.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah. I have learned that I don't like seeing everyone miserable. I pick and choose. Don't you feel special?
$1,100. That's wild. That is also like a PSA 8 version of it, though, too. So, I mean,
it is.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big deal. We're getting into like, I see some of the other ones, and it's like $670 for a more like less good in shape version. A more chewed on version is a good way to put it. All right, moving along. Beta releases not long after Alpha with a slightly larger print run and a black border. And here is a card from Beta that is on the reserved list.
So let me ask for clarification before I read this. Is Beta the same set as Alpha, but it just has a bigger print run? Or are they different cards altogether?
The same cards. Well, almost all the same cards except some mistakes were made. Got it.
Okay. Because like in Yu-Gi-Oh, we don't have like a 1-to-1. Well, actually, that's not true. They recently just sort of did like a 1-to-1 reprint set, but that's not what we're here for. Okay. Plateau. This is a land that is probably the worst design for the background of. I'm sorry. You're gonna give Yu-Gi-Oh text, font, and like readability. You're going to rag on that? What is this? This looks like I'm going to get, like, hypnotized.
Hey. We learned quickly.
Okay.
This did not last very long.
You know what? I will be more forgiving. This was the first card game. If it wasn't for Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh! Wouldn't have even existed. So I should not be stepping on any toes here. Anyway. This is a land. Counts as both mountains and plains, and is affected by spells that affect either. That's, God, wording on old cards is great. Tap to add either red or white to your mana pool. Okay, so this is a land that acts as 2 lands. That seems insane. That seems really good.
Known as a dual land. Yep.
Yeah, I don't see any issues with this. I think this is really good because I feel like you would want to have your lands, as someone who comes from a game that doesn't care about resources, you already have lands, which hinder your ability to play stuff. But now it's like, oh, cool. Now I have more options. Or it's easier for me to play my things, right? I don't need to have these specific colors. So you could just play this, and you can play 4 of this. So that way you can have 4 red or 4 white or 2 of each or 3 and 1, whatever. And then you could pair it with, like, I imagine there's this card for every other, color pairing as well. So you could play all those in tandem, and then great, cool.
You are correct. It's part of a cycle, 100%.
So let me ask this question. Is similar to Force Field, is this card still playable?
This card is legal in Vintage and Legacy and Commander.
Oh, God. If this is legal in Commander, this is actually going to be money. Because this is...
Every deck that's red and white would want one,
literally
right?
every... Well, so you can only play one of it, though, because it is Commander. But every deck that plays red and white would play this card. There's, like, no reason... Honestly, there might be some decks that don't even just play, like, red or white that would want this, just because you have, like, the flex. If you just played, like, white or red in any way, you would still maybe want to play this. So, with that being the case, compared to Force Field, every single person who wants this specific card is going to want this. And, again, Commander players are crazy. We've learned this. This is going to be insane. This is going to be disgusting money. I don't even care that this is beta. This could be more than the alpha Force Field because of the demand for this.
Hold up. So we know it's good, right? Like, we'd play this in every deck that used the colors, right?
Yes.
The analysis is this card is really damn good. I'm going to give you a little more context because it's going to be fun.
Okay.
Plateau was printed 4 times. Alpha, Beta, Unlimited, Revised. And then never printed, and according to Wizards, never will be printed again. This was the art for every other Plateau. The Plateau you're looking at for Beta was a mistake.
Really? How so?
Wrong art.
So this is like an art for something else? This is a different card entirely?
I think it was meant to be.
Oh, so this art isn't on any other card, is what you're saying. Okay, so...
It's only on specifically the beta version of Plateau.
Oh my god, that means it's going to be even more expensive. So the alpha Plateau looks like the second one you showed me with the little horse guy.
Actually, the alpha Plateau, let me just make absolutely sure here.
He's already starting.
I've got to
everyone
double
in the comments,
check.
he's already starting. He's already starting.
Interesting. Okay. The Plateau art was changed for Revised, which was the most distributed one. The Unlimited and the Beta, Alpha, and Unlimited Plateaus look like this with this art. And then it changed for Revised.
See? Everyone in the comments, he's already cheating. He's already trying to throw me off.
I'm working as I go.
All right. That's fine.
I still think it's a really good thing to find out about what people think of these arts.
It's kind of neat. I will say I kind of like the one you showed me first better. The newer one looks, I don't know. I like the little horse guy, but I don't really like the rest of it. Whatever. That's not what we're here for. Okay. It's not the alpha Plateau. So the alpha Plateau is going to still be insane money. But again, every red and white deck wants this card. This is going to be worth... I think even the beta version of this, I still think might be worth more than the alpha Force Field. I think that could be the case.
Oh my God. So I decided to type something in. I typed into Google, why was Plateau MTG art changed?
Okay.
Because it's the only one that receives new art in Revised. It's the only card that gets a different art treatment. It says, because the original art became unusable, the hard drive with the image crashed.
That's so funny. learning something. We're learning something. Okay.
Oh my god.
I mean,
the
they could have
90s,
just
baby. The 90s.
Yeah. They could have just copied and pasted. Whatever. I'm not going to get into it. Okay, like I said, I think even the beta version of this could be worth more than the alpha force field. Because if you can't have an alpha plateau, you're going to want the next best thing, which is the beta plateau. And if every deck that would play this card wants this, the demand for this card would be through the roof. You said the force field, alpha force field is like $1,100.
Mm-hmm. So let's go with, let's see, what do we have for a sold listing? Here's one. This is a graded 9 beta
9?
plateau.
Oh, if it's a 9, that's even crazier if that's the case. I am going to go with, here's what I'm thinking. I think an alpha version of this is several grand. It like I'm like maybe like 2 to 3 grand, maybe even potentially no, because that's getting to like power 9 territory though. Is it going to be like that? Maybe. It could be up there because it's so generic. I could see an alpha one of these going for that, especially because it's Commander. The power 9, except for Time Twister, isn't legal in Commander, and I think that definitely hurts it. So I think an alpha one of these would be around like Time Twister range potentially, which means the beta version has like a sort of half-life. So I think it might actually be around this force field price. I still think it's more expensive. You also said it's a 9. If it's a 9, that could really push up the price. Because if this card's ancient, that means there's hardly any 9s in existence, if that's the case. I'm going to go Beta Plateau 9, $1,850. Final answer.
$2,800 final bid.
That's nuts. That's crazy. Oh my God. The alpha's got to be like $5,000 then if that's the case. Wow.
I think it makes such a big difference that this
so.
is Commander playable, that you can have this trophy piece in your deck. And here's the thing, we're going to get, I mean, I don't know if I'm ever going to have you analyze fetch lands, but basically there are lands in Magic that you sacrifice to search for a different land that meets a requirement. Usually that requirement is the type, right?
Okay.
So like a mountain or plains. Any card that can fetch a mountain or plains card, it can fetch a plateau.
Oh, so it counts as both. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So while you can have only one in your Commander deck, you can probably have like 6 ways to tutor it up. Depending on the colors of your deck, you can have up to 10 ways to just pull it right out of the deck. And you can go get this amazing piece of Magic history and slam it on the battlefield.
Crazy. You're probably playing this every game, in all honesty. Like, this is probably the first land you would get every game if this is like the colors your deck is playing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. This is... So this is crazy to me because like Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't have any form of reserve list. And honestly, Konami has a pretty aggressive reprint policy, all things considered. So it's like the value of like our old cards versus yours are just like in just such different universes. It's like, it's hard to even just wrap my head around it. I will say this, I'm glad I don't play your game because I'm a fan of my nice, shiny old cardboard. This would be bad. I'm glad I do not have this addiction.
It's a very hard thing to get into and a very, very expensive thing to get addicted to. Oh my God. Yep. I do not own any beta dual lands, but my God, would that be nice?
Yeah,
absolutely. Moving on down the line, we come to Unlimited. This card is on the reserve list, and it is from Unlimited. This card was not reprinted into Revised, so it's only had 3 printings. 2 in black border, alpha, beta, and 1 in white border, Unlimited.
And again, for context, Unlimited is still the same alpha and beta set minus some mistakes.
Yep.
Okay. Just need that for clarification. 2-headed giant of Fories?
Sure.
I don't know if that's how you pronounce it.
I think you can still make up whatever you need to.
Great. It's 4 and a red for a 4/4. Summon Giant. It has Trample. May block 2 attacking creatures. Divide damage between them however controller likes. So, if I recall how combat in Magic works, when you go to your combat step, you choose what's attacking, and then the opponent chooses what to block with or not to block with, and then you resolve the combat, correct?
Yes. They attack, you choose blockers. If you are the person blocking, you decide the order that damage is like dealt, like which thing takes damage first or something like that.
Right. And so in this instance, if
No, it's the opposite. It's the attacker gets to assign where damage goes usually.
Okay. But in any case, so if I have two things and attack with this two-headed giant, instead of you picking one of my things to block with, you can just say, okay, I'm going to block both things. And then it is only dealing 4 damage, though, across both things combined, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not dealing 4 twice. That's just one thing I needed to clarify.
Yes.
That's how it sounded like it worked, but I just wanted to make sure. Okay, I will say, I don't know if this is going to piss some people off. I really hate this white border. This is like, I don't know. This is really ugly.
I don't know if you're going to piss off that many people.
Okay,
white
so
borders
people
are
hate
trash.
This. Okay, people hate this too. Great. I'm glad I'm not the only one. I can understand if you wanted like a dual land and you have to get like the unlimited dual land, then like, okay, maybe that's an exception, but I would still hate that you have to play with this. It's so bright.
Dude, but I know exactly one person who loves white border, and years later, years of knowing this person, I can't tell if trolling.
Okay.
Let me also tilt you about, like, looking at them digitally is one thing. Looking at them in person, especially as they're old and played, you can see like the little black spots of dirt and stuff creep into the border.
Ew.
Oh,
gross. And then it would probably yellow
gross.
too. From like,
I
imagine it would yellow from like sweat and stuff too over time. Gross.
Yeah.
Ew. All right, let's get back to the giant. So this is weird because like I don't have much context for what any creatures in Magic are like for old creatures, because my context of old Magic so far is the Power 9, none of which are creatures, Shivan Dragon, and Force Field. That's about where it ends. So that's a great starting point.
It makes them look really good, doesn't it?
I don't even know if this is... It's hard. Like, this could be crazy depending on, like, how bad all the other cards are. Like, on the surface, I don't think this is, like, particularly good. Like, having 5 mana 4/4 doesn't seem great, but it has trample, which might be why it's like slightly understated, and then it can block 2 things. And if your opponent has like 2 low, what do you call it? Toughness, right? It's not health. Yeah. If you have like 2 low toughness things, then this thing's just gonna wall them off indefinitely. And it can also just block a big thing too if it wants. It doesn't have to just block 2 things. It doesn't seem like particularly good. So like if you tell me this is like one of the best cards in the old like days, that's going to tell me a lot about the quality of cards. Like I'm pretty sure, I think the Shivan Dragon, I think you showed me that before. I think it's like around this power level, but then it has flying, and then it also has the ability to like pump itself up to make it stronger. And like having flying, I think, is like a much higher premium because it's like this evasion type effect, which makes it harder to kill. Like you can't kill it in combat at that point. I mean, it would just have to be like removal spells and stuff. So if like I'm comparing that to this, it's like, well, that seems better because you can like hit your opponent, and if you need to kill bigger stuff, you can like give it more mana to make it kill bigger stuff potentially. I don't know. Like, I think it's just going to tell me a lot about old Magic for how, like, just evaluating this. I don't think this is great. It might just be, like, middle of the road. Might be, like, fine. But if I had to, like, go in one of the 2 camps, I would say it's probably on the lower end of the power level of things. So let's evaluate. You can tell me all about this, and then I'll try to guess the price.
Yeah, this card is pretty bad.
Okay.
So the generic big ugly monster. It's mostly here to try to see if
Debate
you have a handle on how much a reserve list pretty bad monster might be worth. So this is just I wanted to start showing you creatures sometime. One of the funny things about creatures in the old days is they were either iconic, so they got reprinted a lot, but like Shivan Dragon and Force of Nature, but the Nightmare, right? These are iconic cards, but they aren't very good. They're just big creatures.
Right.
Two-Headed Giant was not reprinted because the rules were clunky. There were a lot of things that made it a very clunky rules card, so it was easier just not to have this text in the game while they were still figuring out their ancient version of the rules. So several cards that just worked weird with the rules and were found to be confusing, especially when interacting with an ability called banding that I might show you someday, that really affected combat. Like those cards got removed going into Revised, and this was one of those cards. I'm going to show you for funsies. I found a picture of a played Two-Headed Giant, so you can really appreciate that white border.
Hideous. That's hideous. That's like, like when the baseboards of your house get like dirty and you have to, that's what that reminds me of. That's hideous. Disgusting.
Yeah, you just want to get in there with a Q-tip and just scrub it clean.
Disgusting.
Anyway, pricing. Let's do it. How much?
So this is unlimited. What rarity slot does this fall in?
This is a rare.
This was a rare. That's
yeah.
You were not happy to pull this. Oh man.
Nope. And we're gonna go with near mint for the funsies. The big numbers are more fun.
So the fact that there's a near mint of this means that there's probably more of these in circulation because people don't want this and they want the better cards like the dual lands and stuff. It is still technically reserve list, but it's not good. It's not iconic. I mean, it could be iconic for Magic players. If it is, sure. I'd say pick a better card, but that's just me. This is going to be interesting just because like this isn't a good card, but it could still be like a collectible card, and the collectors might just want this card as part of their collection to make like a full set of Unlimited, for instance, right? It's also a rare, so it's like slightly harder to get. But like, who cares if it's like not what you actually want? It's also unlimited, so it's not alpha or beta.
This is also the set we looked at when doing the Power 9 video. So another rare from this set named Time Walk goes for 3,200.
Yeah, but like not everything you pull is a Time Walk, right?
Exactly.
Like you're
range is what's exciting.
Yeah, for you and everyone watching this, I think,
when you buy an unlimited pack of Magic the Gathering, you could have a Time Walk or a Two-Headed Giant.
But see, it's unlimited, right? It's like not even alpha or beta. Like if anything, you might want the beta or alpha version if you're like a baller like that.
Dude, then you're just picky.
That's true. but people are picky about this stuff.
It's that white border, dude. You know it. It's that white border. I feel like I'm
going blind looking at this picture while we're discussing this. Even though it's reserve list, I feel like this is like someone's opening a pack of this and they're just like, I hate that I pulled this and this is like barely worth anything. I'm going to say just because it's reserve list, like it's a rare. I'm going to say like $30.
$30?
I'm going to say $30.
Okay. I found something new. I'm just going to drop the like listing offer that I found with the, the image and such right to you. Ready? $100.
Okay. $100. Like that's fine. If it was going to be over 100, then you guys are actually lunatics if this is over 100. I reserve list and all that, it makes sense. I thought there is a world where like people just want, the big pulls out of these sets. And especially because this is like the unlimited set, this is the third run. I was thinking maybe a beta or alpha version of this would go for 100. So my thinking was, okay, if it's unlimited, maybe cut that in half a couple times. We sort of end up there. That was my thought. But if this is 100, that means like the beta or alpha of this might be like, 200, 300, something like that.
There is some reason in the world. Yeah, I think you actually did a good job. You didn't go too high on this one. Well played. Yeah. Well played.
Still way off, but, not as bad as it could have been.
All right, we're going to move to Revised. Revised was the set that removed all of the Power 9 and a bunch of other cumbersome and really both broken and just weirdly worded cards. It put in a few cards from some expansion sets, which we're going to get to in a second. But this card that I'm going to show you, this would be its last tournament legal printing in Revised. It was in beta, it was in alpha, it was in unlimited, and then this here, or wait, is that true? Hold on. Does 4th edition have these? I don't think it does. There's no way. I'm crazy. Now I have to double check myself because I'm scared. I am so sure. I was so sure I started talking and everything. But now I'm just going to make absolutely sure. Because I don't want to get accused of no crap. Yeah, 4th edition didn't have this. So this is the last tournament legal printing of this card. And I'm curious. I don't think you'll have to evaluate whether or not it's good based on what we've already done. I just want to know what you think it costs.
Underground Sea. Tap at... Oh, okay. So this is the dual land for black blue. Okay.
Yep.
And then does the rest of this text matter if a spell destroys land? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay. So it's just a land that is both. Okay. Yeah. So we said all the same stuff before. If it goes in black or blue, you're probably going to play this. And so that means every commander player under the sun is going to want this. So to clarify, so Revised is everything from the first set, but just without the Power 9 and like maybe some other changes, like for the most part.
Yep.
Okay. Still the ugly white border. Glad we're still doing this.
Nope.
So I guess, like, the thing with this, is there anything else special about this? Like, is there any, like, mysterious change in artwork or anything like that? Or am I just straight up evaluating it as is? Okay, so it's just another dual land then. So I guess the question here is, I guess it's twofold. It's easy to compare this directly to the beta plateau. I guess the question is, are black and blue more popular than, like, red or white for commander players? I don't know the answer to that because, like, I obviously don't know the format very well. So in my mind, if this card, if black and blue are more popular, then there is a world where like an unlimited, or not, excuse me, a revised version of like an Underground Sea could be like the same price as, a beta plateau. Because like if the plateau is like the least desirable of all these dual lands because no one plays red or white, and Underground Sea is the most desirable, then maybe this is like on par with the plateau, even though it's 2 sets later.
That's definitely good analysis. Do you want me to clear that part up? Because I think it's fair.
If you would be so kind.
Blue and black are much more popular than red and white.
Okay.
But you're gonna... I think I would be mean if I told you you might be overthinking that. Like, a bit.
Okay, just curious. I mean, I think it's still valid, all things considered.
It's a valid thing. If I let you then draw that conclusion to this is worth as much as a beta plateau, it would be really funny for content, but it would be so mean.
But you've already done mean stuff to me before.
You're
and
right.
You also could just be baiting me now, right?
You're right. Do you trust me?
Not really, I'll be honest. We've only done a few of these videos, but I'm already learning. Okay. What was the beta plateau? $2,800? That's what we said? Okay.
Yep.
Do I think this is this expensive? I think I'm going to say you're giving me the benefit of the doubt here, and that it's maybe not that expensive. It could still be, it's still going to be a lot, I imagine. I don't think it's going to be nearly that much. Like, this is probably, well, this is like the 4th printing of this card, though.
Yep.
But again, Commander, and it's every deck wants it. And like, if you're working your way up the totem pole from revised to unlimited to beta to alpha to get like the premium version of these dual lands, then like the lower versions are still going to. This is, you said this is the last time this got printed, so this is like the floor if you want a dual land, basically, is what you're telling me.
Correct. Yes.
Oof. Oh, this is going to be expensive. I imagine there are other dual lands that are just not generic, right? But they have like some stipulation attached to them. But there's
tons of them.
Okay. So there are other alternatives, but this is like just the best card that does this.
Oh yeah.
Okay. This could still be worth like $1,000. If this is the floor for this, the beta one was worth 28. If it's not worth $1,000, it's like you said, it's way better than the other one. Can I ask this? Are black and blue the most popular colors for Commander?
In my opinion, you could argue also for blue and red, but certainly blue will be involved.
Okay, blue will be involved. Black,
oh yeah,
questionably. Okay. Would it crack $1,000? I'm thinking either like in the 800 to 900 range or like the low thousands, like $1,000, 1,100, 1,200. I'm kind of like in between 8 to 12 right now. The beta one, I think the premium on as you go up the totem pole just gets higher and higher though. Let's do this. I'm going to say this is what grading are we going off of for this? That could also alter my
near
answer
mint.
Here. Near mint. Ooh.
Near mint.
$850. Final answer.
$850.
Yes.
All right, read this out for me.
$740. I'm not. That's. I think the best I've done. That's the best I've done.
That is definitely in the range, and I guarantee you that Underground Sea has sold in that price range plenty of times. It's kind of lived in this like $700 to $1,000 range. I think the listed median here is like $899. The high sale price is $899. Yeah, you penciled right. You got right in there. Good job.
Put me on the Price is Right. Let's go. We're set now.
I mean, we could. Like that, like you kind of crushed that. I thought
that's
that
like
was
the
very
only
impressive.
one I've gotten right of these. Let's be honest.
Do you think it's weird that Commander players are still like really excited about getting their Underground Seas? You know,
no,
$700, $800 for that land. Okay.
No, it makes sense. Like the demand for anyone playing a blue or black Commander deck, like so everyone, because Commander is the most popular format from my understanding, and so everyone's going to want this. And then, like I said, you work your way up the totem pole. You'll probably start with the lowest rarity of this. Then maybe you get some more income, and it's like, okay, I'm going to trade up this version to the unlimited, and then maybe I'll trade up to the beta, right? You slowly work your way up. So it's like the floor is always going to be like pretty high for this, just because there's still so much demand, and this is the best version of this type of effect. I get it. Like as a Yu-Gi-Oh player, we do have cards that are in this price range. But I think like just the scale to how far it goes for Magic is by far and away out of like our realm of thinking.
So here's a fun fact, because like this, you can see the effect here, okay? The print run for beta, there is estimated to be just about 3,000 of every beta rare.
Wow.
In existence.
Oh my God. Okay.
The print run for revised, you know, this whole time they're trying to meet demand. Magic cards were incredibly hard to get. The game was more popular than they could have possibly imagined, and they kept moving up demand. Revised is when they got the closest. This is something you could walk in and find on game store shelves on a regular basis back in the day. This was my first starter deck, was Revised. The print run is estimated between 150 to 250 million cards, and where is it? That means that for each rare, or no, now it's estimated in like 600 million range total. So that is approximately 289,000 of each rare.
That's still insane considering that it's fetching that high of a price when you think about that there would be that many of this card in circulation. But also,
man,
in the right condition as well. How many of these got lost to the playground, right?
Oh, this was marketed as a children's card game.
Yep.
How many underground seas were eaten by a dog? You know, like it's the great mystery.
Were card
Where
sleeves
are
even
they?
invented yet at this point? I don't think so.
Not like that. They weren't a regular accessory. You were weird if you tried to do them. I remember the first person who showed up with, quote, sleeves was playing a deck and trying to shuffle a deck of top loaders.
I believe it. Yeah, because sports cards had like their, sports cards are obviously popular during that time. So that makes sense. And that would be the best you have in terms of protection. So, wow.
Yeah, if you're going to play with the card, like obviously if you could go back in time and you want to make a lot of money off Magic, open these packs and put them in binders right away. That was like the best thing you could do. But now we're kids. We play with the cards, baby. We play with the cards.
Commander players, man. I
cannot
take that up as a hobby. That would be so dangerous.
So, next expansion, the first ever expansion set for Magic the Gathering was called Arabian Nights. Okay. Arabian Nights is said to have printed out 5 million cards total.
What?
Yeah.
Why was it so... Why did they, shrink the print run?
So this was before Revise came out.
Okay.
So, this was their first expansion set. I believe they were in 8-card boosters. And it is kind of mind-boggling looking back, but I think they were actually worried about its success.
Interesting.
So,
okay.
Keep that in mind as we read, evaluate, and try to fathom the price of this card.
But it's still reserve list.
It is reserve list. This is the only printing ever in Arabian Nights.
This is the only printing of this card. Okay, Bazaar of Baghdad. It's a land. Like how it has the little scimitar as the little icon. So we started doing set icons in the first ever expansion. So it's kind of like what I was saying. Tap to take 2 cards from your library, after which you must immediately discard 3 from your hand to the graveyard. If you don't have 3 or more cards in your hand, discard your whole hand. No spell may be cast between drawing and discarding cards. Immediately discard 3. Tap to take 2 cards from your library. Okay, let me clarify this. Is taking 2 cards from your library drawing, or is that you get to take any 2 cards from your library?
It is drawing.
Okay, that is a very important distinction.
It sure is. That's a good card idea. Let's see if they'll make it.
That would get banned so fast. After which you must immediately discard 3 from your hand to the graveyard. Okay. So, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has an old card similar to this called Graceful Charity. Graceful Charity is just a normal spell that says draw 3, discard 2, so it's like a sorcery. And it's free because, in Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything's free. But this is on a land. And I think that's kind of neat because basically every turn, this lets you see 3 cards if you're counting your draw for turn as the 3rd card. And then you discard 3. So then it's you're always getting to just cycle a ton of cards through your hand to keep the best cards that you have. But also load up the graveyard too. Oh, this is going to be money. Oh my God. Okay. Rip off the Band-Aid. Is this Commander legal?
It is Commander legal.
Oh, God. All right. I guess the only thing possibly limiting how good this could be is if this is searchable. Can you not immediately, but do you have enough ways to access this card in order to take advantage of this effect?
Searching for a specific land, a non-basic land, because searching for basic lands is easy. Searching for non-basic lands, pretty hard. And some colors really don't have a lot of ways to do it.
Okay.
In the entirety of Magic, you can get a number of, I showed you Demonic Tutor, right? That's Commander legal. There's a number of search your library for any cards that you can use.
Okay.
So it's reasonable to get a number of tutors that could get this specifically.
Okay. So on the surface, I think this card is incredibly good. I don't really think I have much else to say. I think this card is the worst part about this card is if you're just low on cards, then it's even then, I don't think that's even an issue. Yeah, no, I think this card's really good. It's hard for me to see a deck. If I could Graceful Charity and Yu-Gi-Oh every turn, that would be banned immediately. So, yeah, I think this card's crazy.
You are right about that. This card is crazy.
Okay.
It took people a little while, but not too long to figure it out because on its face, it's card disadvantage, and it takes your land drop, so you don't get to play a land that turn.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah, as we got into mechanics like dredge, which basically use the graveyard as a resource, this card became absolutely insane. In fact, there is a legacy dredge deck called Manaless Dredge that doesn't use mana in any way. It just mulligans to try to get Bazaar of Baghdad.
Sounds like a Yu-Gi-Oh deck to me.
Yeah. Oh, baby.
Even without those types of mechanics, though, like, yeah, you miss a land theoretically for turn, but the fact that for the rest of the game, if you see this, especially if you see this on like the first or second turn, the fact that you just get to dig 3 cards deeper into your deck every single turn is nuts. Because especially with your game, because you have the issue of balancing lands with non-lands, it just fixes, you sculpt your hand perfectly every time. So yeah. I think that just, this card only gets better with time. And then we get to the price.
Card is stupid and busted, but...
Then we get to the price. So
PSA 7.
This wasn't printed in the first sets. This is the first expansion, but this is the only print of this card. This has never been reprinted, correct?
Yep.
This is going to be dumb. This is going to be so dumb. I feel like not every Commander deck would play this card, but I feel like if any Commander deck plays with the graveyard, you want this card in your deck. And I feel like a lot of decks in Commander would play from the graveyard because the graveyard has become a second hand, both in your game and mine. So I feel like there's still a pretty decent demand for this card. Only printing, not as universal as, say, a dual land, but it only has 1 printing versus like 4. PSA 7, I think this might go over $1,000. Does it go over 2?
Does it?
That's tough. The Underground Sea for its last and final printing was like 800. I'm going to say this card, PSA 7, I might bump my number up a little bit. I was going to say like 1,200, but I think because it's like PSA 7, I want to bump it up a little. I think I'm going to go like $1,400.
Okay, 1,400. Here we go.
2,400. I am not even close.
I mean, yeah, double it and you're there.
Yeah.
This is definitely a factor of the decks that really want it. There is no replacement. They never printed a card like this again. Sure. And the smallest print run for an expansion ever, like 5 million total print run is so small. Like Arabian Nights cards, because of that, so many of them, most Magic players have never even seen in person.
That's crazy.
Incredibly hard to find. I never saw this on a shelf ever. Except in like nowadays where somebody's like as a vanity piece, right? Like,
sure,
you know,
right.
$100,000 you can have this pack, that kind of thing.
Wild.
Yeah, so Bazaar of Baghdad is definitely going to set some high expectations for some of these expansion cards.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, I will say, before we move on, it is a niche. Like, the Graveyard deck is a niche. There's no replacement for it. But I bet the demand for this would be higher if every deck functioned that way. And it is still a niche card in that way. It's kind of interesting.
The premiums on some of these are just wild to me. Actually, just ridiculous.
Oh, we are nothing if not insane. So let's move to Antiquities. Antiquities is the second expansion of Magic the Gathering, according to the internet and Google, which, you know, you guys can let me know in the comments if you trust. Antiquities has had a print run of 15 million, as opposed to the Arabian Nights 5 million print run.
So like 3 times. Okay.
Yep. And the antiquity set, this is important, so take a note, focused on artifacts. It was about the brothers' war between Urza and Mishra and the artifacts they devised to fight it. That was the driving theme of the set. Here is your card.
Mishra's Workshop. This is some freaky art. Land. Have a little anvil symbol. I like their little symbols that they have for the sets. Yu-Gi-Oh! Just has like letters. Tap to add 3 colorless mana to your mana pool. All right, that's Black Lotus territory. Actually, no, because Black Lotus was any color. This mana may only be used to cast artifacts. I see. Okay, so it's pseudo Black Lotus for artifacts. Now, this might be a dumb question. Artifacts are typically always colorless, correct? Like, for the most part?
A vast majority are colorless.
Got it. Okay. That was just something I needed to clarify. So basically, this is continuous Black Lotus for artifacts. If it's an artifact-focused set and they make artifacts strong enough that they incentivize people to want to go out and buy this and play with this, then this card would probably be broken in those decks and a mandatory, like, 4 of. So, yeah, even if it's only for artifacts, I still think that this card would be crazy in that regard. It's limiting. Like, you need to play it in the right deck. It's not as generic as it's similar to Bazaar of Baghdad, but just, like, in a different way, if that makes sense. So I think this card's really good.
100%. This card is really good. Okay. And as you said, if you were going to play a deck in, say, Vintage, like there's a deck, I believe it's called Shops, where in Vintage, like, yeah, you kind of want 4 of these, right? Or you want at least whatever the legal amount is. This card is banned in Legacy.
Okay.
So that is a bit of a standout. So what do you think people would pay to run the artifact deck in these
Commander
formats?
legal?
This is Commander legal.
Are all of these cards Commander legal now? That we're just
I'm not going to say that because you're going to yell at me if I'm off, but I believe these cards are Commander legal.
Okay, so here we go again. Slightly bigger print run than Bazaar of Baghdad, but not as much, but still very limiting, all things considered. So has this ever been reprinted?
This has never been reprinted.
Then we're probably like in Bazaar of Baghdad territory. I guess it's like a question of, is it more? Because like artifact deck, I feel like artifact decks would be just more limiting in a lot of ways compared to just playing a graveyard deck. Because like you can sculpt a graveyard deck in a lot of ways. And plus that Bazaar of Baghdad, you don't even need a graveyard deck. Like I said, you could just draw 3 every turn and probably be happy with that. This is more limiting. But it is like mana cheating, in quotes. And that is very good in your game. That is very good in your game. This is, like I said,
wrong.
This is a Black Lotus every turn if you're playing artifacts and a lot of artifacts. I think I just have to go with my gut. I think I just got to stick to like Bazaar of Baghdad pricing. Maybe go a bit under because the print run is larger, so there might be more of these in circulation. I also think it's more niche. Let's go. What's our grade?
So that's what I was gonna. I have some options to offer you on this one. I can offer you a PSA 9.5 or a PSA 5.
We've been going for the highest end. Let's go for 9.5.
9.5. Really? You don't see these often.
That's going to be expensive if it's a 9.5, because that means this is like even more of a premium. It's also legal in other formats outside of Commander. You said this is legal in Vintage too, so like those people are money bags McRich. $2,000. Right on the money. Oh, if it's 9.5 though, 2,500. If it's a 9.5, I'll go 25. I'll go 25 if it's a 9.5.
2,500. All right, here you go. Read this one out for the people. Oh, let me hear it in the back.
I hear the smile in your voice. 5,600. Maybe I should have gone for the 5. What's the 5 out of curiosity?
That's actually a really good question. The 5 is scroll down. There it is. 1800.
I should have gone with the 5. I would have been closer. 5,600. Like the 9.5 premium though. That's like, God, I'm not even close on that one. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would beat the Bazaar, to be honest. That's wild. Okay.
So an interesting takeaway: the graveyard deck that uses Bazaar is far more niche than the artifact deck. There are so many artifacts that have been printed over the years, and artifacts routinely are busted. Like the more of these we do, the more times you're going to see a card and you're going to be like, oh, but it's an artifact, which means it can be in any deck regardless of the colors. Artifacts routinely seem to break formats that they're in. So over time, even though graveyard decks are powerful, I'm getting the impression that graveyard in Yu-Gi-Oh is generically, like as a regular occurrence, more powerful than in Magic and more common than in Magic. Whereas artifact decks, there's always, it seems like, a busted artifact deck. Around every corner. Oh my God.
I will say that could also be skewing my perception on how good Bazaar Baghdad is, because I would agree. I think for the most part, there are so many decks and archetypes that use the graveyard in a way to like abuse what the deck is trying to do. Some are better than others, but I think in my eyes, because I don't really have as much of conception of artifacts, because like the concept of an artifact doesn't like really exist in our game. It's like kind of a continuous spell / trap, I guess. But yeah, like Bazaar Baghdad would be like insane in Yu-Gi-Oh! But Mishra's Workshop doesn't really have an analog for our game. So I think that's just harder to really conceptualize like how good this could possibly be. But it makes sense. Like when you explain it, I get it. But I never in a million years would I guess this is worth like nearly $6,000. That's whoo. The whales are in your game. It's more than Time Twister. Yeah, I never would have thought anything would be more than Time Twister, like relative, except if it was like Power 9 or something like that. So that's crazy to me.
Let's move it on down the line, shall we? Coming to one of my favorite sets and all of yours, we are at Legends. Legends is the third expansion set for Magic the Gathering and is rumored to have a print run of about 35 million cards.
Okay, so double that of Antiquities. That's what it was called?
Yep, Antiquities 15 million, Arabian Nights 5 million, Legends 35 million cards.
But that matters. But
it's still very much before they caught up to demand. This was another very hard to find set, hard to locate on the shelves. And out came this beauty. I can't wait to hear what you think of the card, and then we'll try to price it.
Oh, boy. Okay. The Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale. Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale. Neat art. It's kind of cool. Legendary land. Little pillar for the set icon. All creatures now require an upkeep cost of 1 in addition to any other upkeep costs they may have. All creatures now require an upkeep cost of 1 in addition to any... If the upkeep cost for a creature is not paid, the creature is destroyed. So, if I'm understanding this correctly, if I have 3 creatures in play... and I have this in play, I have to pay 1 mana during my upkeep per creature. Otherwise, they get destroyed.
That is right.
Per creature. And this also applies to the opponent as well, because it says all creatures. So it's not just yours. So you sort of... I don't want to say you floodgate them, but you put a tax on their creatures to make it... You're making them pay to keep them around, which then means that the rest of their plays aren't as good because now they can play less stuff. And people like playing stuff. And this card makes it so you have to play less stuff. This seems really annoying. This seems obnoxious.
I can confirm you are on the right track with that.
Good. I think this is probably good. Like, there could be a world where you build your deck around this in a way. Like, I'm thinking if there's, like, you have, like, one big idiot that's, like, just better than, like, a lot of your other opponent's stuff, and then it's like, oh, I only have to pay 1, and they have to pay, like, 3 or 4 or whatever, and you have a bunch of other, like, floodgate-type effects to make their life miserable, but, like, you don't care, or something like that. Or maybe you just play like some sort of burn deck, right? You don't play creatures at all. Like that could be another world where this is good. Yeah, it just seems like an irritating card. Like these types of effects are just like not fun. So I feel like just being an older card, they'd probably try to not print something like this again. I'd hope. But if I've learned anything from Yu-Gi-Oh, they don't care. So. Yeah, you'd like to think so.
I'd like to think so. But this is legal in Legacy, it's legal in Vintage, and it's legal in Commander.
Oh, great. This feels like a you card, though, if I know you from our few sessions we've met up.
I am... Okay, that almost feels like a personal attack.
Am I wrong?
I don't think
That's what I thought.
I don't think I would do this. I don't think I'd do this in Commander. I don't think I would.
Let me, write in the comments if you disagree with him saying that. Just out of curiosity.
I don't think I would. Nope.
Okay.
On the internet, sure. But, man, in person, I don't think I could look at my friends again.
Since this is a legendary land, does this mean you can only have one of it? In the instance of not playing a Commander?
You can only have one on the field at a time.
Okay. And if it's Commander, you're only going to have one anyway, unless you have like some way to copy it or something, I would imagine.
True.
Which maybe there's some gimmicks with that. I don't know if that exists, but yeah.
If you have your one in Commander and you copy it and it's still legendary, you can only keep one.
Oh, I see. So if like there's a way to copy it, it's because you showed me that one card that makes a copy of a legendary, but it's not legendary.
Yeah, there are a few of those effects. They are not normal, especially for lands.
Sure. But it's possible. I don't think that, that's if that happens, whatever. I think this is pretty, I say good, it's annoying, but it's still a good card at the end of the day. I don't think this card's bad. I think, there would be certain decks that would want to play this card, depending on, what it is they are trying to accomplish. I don't think every deck plays this, similar to, the Bazaar or to the Workshop. But it's more generic because any deck could play it, theoretically, and get value off of it in some capacity, but I still think you sort of only include this in certain types of decks. So I mean, this card could be terrible for all I know, but I think this is good.
Yeah, this card is pretty bonkers.
Yeah.
And the way that you, quote, build around it is just don't play creatures.
Yep.
There were,
like I said,
a number of cards. Yeah, there's just so many cards back in the day. Like, the creatures in old school Magic were pretty bad, and the effects that just punish you for playing creatures was so good. So, we look at Force Field, right? That was a desirable card. This is way better than Force Field. It's just you use a land drop, and now their resources are constrained just to keep their creatures around. But also remember, we're in the age of land destruction for Magic, right? So if you Armageddon and then play this, all their creatures die too.
Oh, that's disgusting. Ew.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's card games.
This card is one of the most hated cards in history. And this is technically, there's Legend. Legends was the first set also printed in another language. It was printed in Italian. So
that's cool.
There is Italian Legends, and this is Legends. And that's the only time they printed this card.
Okay. If anything, I get credit. My evaluation of these cards has been pretty on point.
Hell yeah.
The prices are a different story, but honestly, that might be what the people are here for content-wise. And I imagine this is going to be the next 10 videos you and I do together after how bad my evaluations have been of that. Okay. Well, now my perception of prices has just gone out the window. Because I'm just going to look back to Bazaar, and I'm going to look back to this Workshop, and now I'm going to look at this and just.
And now I'm going to terrify you because I've got a PSA 9.5 auction that finished.
Great. All right, so we're going to be through the moon on this one. Is it more than that Workshop? I wouldn't be surprised at this point. It's definitely more than the Bazaar. I think this is more than the Bazaar. Just the tax on being able to prevent your opponent from playing just seems miserable. Not that I would know anything about that. We don't have resources in our game.
Yeah, this card would be really hard for you guys to handle.
Well,
how do you pay a mana?
So our equivalent of this is we have a card called Summon Limit. Summon Limit reads your players can only summon up to 2 times per turn, and that card's banned. So, that's our version of this.
Okay.
I like there are other cards that are similar to Summon Limit, but I feel like that's like the best analog for something like this. There are cards that like increase the levels of monsters and stuff, but like that's never really been a thing. We've really just had like the restriction on summons, whether it's how many you can summon or maybe you can only summon a certain type of card or something like that. That's like our like version of this. And those cards, those are toxic. Like we hate those cards. So I can imagine this being like a catch-all for everything is infinitely worse in every way.
So how much do they pay to make everything worse in every way?
PSA
what kind of
9,
monsters
5.
are we? Yeah.
There are more of this than Mishra's Workshop, but it's so much more generic. I think... Oh, man. Do I go above or below?
That's the question.
You said 9.5?
9.5 grade, yep.
God.
Same grade.
I'm going to stay around the Workshop. I'm going to go just slightly under the Workshop. Maybe the fact that there are slightly more of these around means that it's slightly easier to get. I'm just going to say $5,000. I'm just going to go right on $5,000.
Read this one out for the people, baby.
Oh, great. You sound so excited. 4,400. Okay. All right. It's funny. My gut was telling me to go 45. But then the fact that like the Workshop was like 56, I was like, I feel like it's got to be closer to the Workshop because it felt more generic, but like maybe because there's slightly more of them, it's slightly under. So man, I should have gone with my instinct. That would have been almost right on the money if I did that. Wow.
Really close.
Crazy.
Over twice as many tabernacles in print than workshops.
Right.
Over twice as many
that makes
in
a
print.
big difference. I feel like that makes a big difference.
Yep. But I mean, all things said, like you're narrowing in really well. Like you're really getting on this. That was good.
I would have been like right on it though. Damn.
All right. I have 4 more I want to get through. So let's go to the dark. The dark was the first. The Dark was the first expansion set that I saw chilling on a shelf. This was where they actually started to meet demand. 75 million is the expected print run for the Dark. So you're looking at significantly more than double Legends, which was more than double Antiquities. Okay. So you're going to start to see reflections in the price. Let's evaluate this chase rare from the set.
Goblin Wizard. God, this guy's ugly. 2 and 2 red. Summon Goblin. Tap, take a Goblin from your hand and put it directly into play. Treat the Goblin as if it were just summoned. I'm assuming that means that like it doesn't have haste or anything like that.
Correct. Okay. Unless it came with haste, but yeah.
Right, unless the Goblin itself has haste, sure.
Yeah.
Pay a red, target Goblin gains protection... Target Goblin gains protection from white until end of turn. That seems like oddly specific. You said this was a chase rare from this set? Man, the Goblin's better have been... you either being facetious or this is like the best Goblin card ever. It's a 1/1, I also just noticed.
Is a baby.
Take a Goblin from your hand and put it directly into play. This is going to sound dumb. You cannot tap something the turn you play it, right?
You cannot tap something the turn you play it for its own effect.
For its own effect, yes. Okay. I'm coming from a land where everything is haste, so I need to clarify that. And we also don't have like tap effects. We just do our effects. We don't have all these extra steps because our game isn't balanced. This is hard. I feel like unless I know like what kind of goblins we're working with, that's kind of tough.
I think that's totally fair.
I feel like this just dies to everything. It's a 1/1. There's probably so many ways to kill this.
There might be literally tens of thousands by now ways to kill this.
Yeah. So you play this, hope it survives, and then next turn you get to tap it to like play an extra guy. I guess you get to technically cheat out the goblin. So if there's like a reason to cheat this card out, or like if there's some big payoff in cheating out another goblin, then like cool. But like you can't even go like Goblin Wizard, cheat out Goblin Wizard, because then you have to wait a whole nother turn to like use that one. But then next turn, if you have 2 Goblin Wizards, then you get to summon even more goblins, and then it gets... There's no way that's happening.
I can tell you're into like Yu-Gi-Oh! Special summoning. You're trying to figure out how to chain these in one turn.
I'm trying to figure out like there's I'm either missing something or this card sucks. Like I'm not seeing it. I don't think this is good. I need
right.
to. Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, this card isn't very good.
Okay.
I've never seen this in a tournament deck before, and I'm sure
Excellent.
it might have appeared from time to time, but I would never stand out here and call this good. But I am curious because it is on the reserve list, theme of this video.
Okay.
This is the only printing of Goblin Wizard, and what I am curious what you feel like. This legal in Commander card, where typal decks, I will tell you, like, you know, certain tribes of creatures are very popular. What do you think a Goblin Wizard is worth?
See, Commander, I think, could potentially alter the price of this quite a bit. If there's like some Goblin OTK deck that this card enables because... I don't know. There's a way to give this guy haste so that you can play this thing and then immediately tap it to play like some crazy 2024 goblin card that like wins you the game on the spot that costs like 10 mana and summons like 4,000 goblins and all of haste to like win the game. Then like, sure. Then this card, if it's never been printed and is like a pivotal piece of that combo, then this card's going to be expensive. Now, is that the best thing you could be doing in Commander? I don't know. Like maybe you're a goblin yourself and you like playing with this type of thing. But that might be like the only application for this card. And if that's the case, I still feel like that's pretty narrow and it's only going to affect the price slightly. If no one plays this card, then it could still, at that point, it's just worth anything because of the reserve list. If it wasn't for the reserve list, this would be worth basically nothing. It could still be worth basically nothing. $20. Final answer.
$20 for a Goblin Wizard?
I'm being generous, but yes. If this is more than that, I will be shocked. $80. You know, it's reserve list.
$71.95.
Is there at least a cool goblin combo in Commander that this uses?
Not really.
Okay, all right. Well,
but you are getting exposure to the casual side of Commander, right? Like there's only one Goblin Wizard, and now these are the cards that probably would have been worth $20 before Commander's rise. Sure. But now it's like, yeah, my Goblin deck isn't complete without this stupid Goblin Wizard, so I'm gonna go get it. And
right.
You know,
I still think it's really just the collectors at this point that are keeping that price up. It's 70s. I wouldn't pay that, but you know, some people do.
Dude,
the market is the market.
I think I got mine for like $50 when I was trying to. I still am. I haven't completed my Set of the Dark, but this was one of the cards on my list that I had to get to like work on my Set of the Dark, and I think it was like 50, and I was like, "What the hell? What is this?"
I'm sorry. I'll sing a eulogy for your wallet after that one.
Well, it gets more interesting.
Okay.
Because we are about to talk about Fallen Empires. Fallen Empires is where we are going. Fallen Empires print runs information. Let's see. Somewhere between 300 and 390 million cards.
So we're going like 5x now. Okay.
They've been killing it. The Dark, you know, it was on shelves. Revised was on shelves, but all these other expansions never met demand, so they went big. And they brought us Fallen Empires. I am going to show you a Fallen Empires card. It is on the reserve list. It is a rare. Okay. I want to know if you think this saw tournament play, and I also want to know what you think it's worth.
Okay. Aeolipile? I do. Aeolipile. We'll go with that. 2 mana artifact, 1 and tap. Sacrifice Aeolipile to have it deal 2 damage to any target. So, compared to creatures, if you play an artifact, it doesn't have summoning sickness, so you could theoretically tap it immediately, yes?
Yes. Yep,
so
you can use that the turn it comes out.
Got it. All right. You said this is a rare.
Mm-hmm.
Artifacts, you said, are good. Why are you showing me this?
You don't think it's good?
I mean, not particularly. Like, this is potentially a way that if there's a way to go sacrifice this, deal 2 damage, and then if you have some like recursive way to keep bringing it back, then you could theoretically just like kill someone. But like, again, the mana is like the limiting factor there. So you'd have to have like the mana to do that, and you need to have like the engine in place in order to do it. Because at minimum, you would need, if you're dealing 20 damage, you would need what? 10 times 2, or excuse me, 10 times 1, so 10 plus 2. So you would need 12 mana plus something in play to like recur this to keep doing that over and over again. And that's not
I will make this promise to you. I'm not trying to gotcha with an infinite combo here.
Okay. That's just Yu-Gi-Oh brain. So that's just like immediately how it works.
I can tell.
I mean, so you can use this at instant speed, correct?
Yep.
If you wanted to. Okay. Like, that's not bad, but I feel like there are probably other cards that probably are better. Maybe not like generic. Maybe that's like because it's an artifact and it's generic, it's really good. And maybe the other types of removal are like color locked. And maybe this is like the first type of card that like didn't color lock its removal. That's like the best case scenario, though. And that still doesn't seem very good. I'm not seeing it. Blow my mind with this.
Oh, this card is bad.
Okay, good.
This card is also one of the best rares in the set.
Oh, so Fallen Empires was a bad set, is what you're telling me.
Fallen Empires, along with some other things, we are getting into the age where people say Magic almost died.
Excellent.
Excellent. This was one of the, I'm going to use this term so loosely, sought after rares in the set.
Wow. The name of the set definitely foreshadowed the set then in that case. Okay.
And this card saw play.
That's wild.
In the deck that won the first ever Magic the Gathering Pro Tour.
It's because it kills Mesa Falcon. Is that why?
Dude, just pump your Mesa Falcon. This doesn't even touch that. I was playing around that. No, this was in the tournament winners sideboard. And if you recall from our Mesa Falcon story, you were required by tournament rules at the time to play 5 cards between your deck and sideboard.
And this was like the best card
legal
you could
set.
play.
And this was one of the best cards you could play.
That's unbelievable.
So, do you think better of my Mesa Falcon now that you've seen this?
You know, you were just ahead of the time, CG.
I was just doing what I could, man. I was just doing my thing. This card did have actual application, because one of the things that kind of characterized this era of Magic is some of the uncommon creatures that were pretty good had protection from a color. So if you were playing a black deck and you had cards in your deck that were creatures that were cheap, that had protection from white. So on the other side, if you're playing a white deck, like the tournament winner Michael DeCanto, you needed ways to remove creatures that had protection from white. Protection is an ability that doesn't let your opponents, or really any effects of that color, or any creatures of that color, block or interact with your creature.
Makes sense.
So could just kill you.
Sure.
And yeah, this is an artifact. It's colorless, so it could kill a pump knight, was how we talked about it back in the day, because they were knights that you could put mana into and they got bigger. So they were serious threats. They could end games if untouched. And that is how this card won a Pro Tour.
That's so funny. Like, I get the generic application of it. Yeah, sure.
So this is on the reserve list. They never printed it again. I can tell you they've printed effects similar, but never exactly this ever again. What do you think this is worth?
What rarity was the Goblin Wizard for context?
It was a rare.
That was also a rare. Okay, so this is a rare. We have like 5x'd the print run. The Wizard was 80. This was also a rare. I think, sadly, this is more playable than the Goblin Wizard. But, like, that's not saying much. This card is probably worth... Man, they must have a lot of these in cycle, then. $5? That would be my guess.
$5?
I'll say $5. Yeah, I'm
all
going
the way
based
down
off
to
of
$5.
The Goblin Wizard is like a rare, and it's from a set that has like a relatively smaller print run. But then like there's so many of these in circulation, right? So it's not great. There's a ton of them around, even if it hasn't been printed again. Aside from people who want to collect full sets of like this set in particular, I don't really know who actually wants this. So I feel like the price of this it doesn't justify it. So yeah. Oh, good. I was too high. It was $1.41.
Seriously, you pay $5 for this piece of shit?
Like I said, it's at least like it's still somewhat old and it's reserve list. Like surely it's worth a couple bucks.
You're good. You're good, especially considering the range of this video. You're definitely good.
Hey, you have to pay shipping. You have to pay shipping. You're almost at $5 with shipping.
You do. You have to pay up for this. Oh my God. This card probably never saw play again after that rule of the 5 of each expansion thing was immediately discarded. Hey, at the time, it seemed like sell our sets, right? We make them play our crappy cards, which was a sign of the times, because let me show you one of the chase rares. Can't believe I'm saying this, of Ice Age. Which was the next Magic the Gathering set that came up. And from here, I think they might scale back the print run. No, not quite. So the print run for Fallen Empires was a disaster. Okay. Card stores, because it had no good rares, were sitting on them for years. There are probably card stores still sitting on Fallen Empires. Again, this was the age where people say Magic almost died. And the set that followed it up was Ice Age. Ice Age is estimated at a print run of 500 million cards.
Jeez.
And here is a rare that is on the reserve list. And see if you can tell me why we're excited about this card.
I just love how all the foreshadowing of the names of these sets for like how the game ended up playing out and you all thinking the game was going to die. That's really funny. Polar Kraken, 8 and 3 blue. That's really expensive. It's a summon Kraken. It's an 11/11. I would hope so if you're paying that much. Trample, cumulative upkeep, sacrifice a land. So does that mean that during your upkeep, after you play this, your upkeep comes around, you sacrifice a land, and then since it's cumulative, you next turn would have to do 2?
Yeah.
And then so on? That's horrible. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Comes into play tapped on top of it. So you don't even get to attack the turn that you get this. Not for nothing, it feels weird to see Trample on like a blue card. It just doesn't seem like very blue from like my understanding of this game, but I don't think that's neither here nor there. When
I was talking about the big Timmy creatures, I was like, where's this? Where's your 11/11?
This sucks. This is like, this is terrible. You spend 11 mana to play this and you don't even get to play with it. And then next turn you start losing. If I was the opponent, I just play my force field, and now all of a sudden I'm taking 1 damage, and you're going to lose all your lands. I just keep this around.
Yeah.
This card blows.
Imagine being a Magic player back then and seeing your game go from Mox's Black Lotus force field, Tabernacle of the Pendril Veil, and now
Polar Kraken.
You're supposed to be excited about this. But this is a reserve list card. They have vowed, my friend, to never reprint this.
I think that's for the best, honestly. It's probably better Polar Kraken never gets reprinted.
At the time, the largest creature ever printed, though.
Well, they did it a disservice, unfortunately.
Make me an offer for a Polar Kraken.
This card has to be worth like less than $1. There's no way this card is worth more than the the little Alia pile thing. That at least has like some niche utility. This thing is terrible. I'll be generous. 99 cents. How's that sound?
99 cents?
Yeah.
All right. I think you'll be surprised.
It's more than the Alia pile. $2.76. I'm genuinely shocked.
They like big dumb creatures, baby.
I guess.
They do. Krakens. Commander players love creature types. Kraken is actually a supported creature type in Commander.
Is it really? That's cool.
And I'm not kidding. Like, the way that Commander players play isn't necessarily optimal. It's all of the Krakens from Magic history kind of deck, right?
That's fun.
So
you get to be Cthulhu.
Happens. You know? Absolutely.
I will say there could be some weird way. Like, so my Yu-Gi-Oh brain is telling me the way you use this card is like you cheat it out somehow, and then you give it to your opponent, so that way they have to keep sacrificing lands, so that way they run out of lands. So you just win the game that way. That's like how my Yu-Gi-Oh brain would use this card.
Maybe that's why it costs a few bucks.
Maybe.
Commander
players are also crazy. We've established that.
We're going to do one more because I can't talk about Fallen Empires and I can't talk about Ice Age without talking about the great trifecta, which is Homelands. Again, the era that almost killed Magic is topped off by this freaking set. Homelands. Oh my goodness. I don't even know what kind of words to put out there. But at least you can say Wizards learned one thing about their 300 to 390 million Fallen Empires print run, their 500 million Ice Age print run. These sets, Ice Age did better. I think that it was a very evocative and exciting set in its own way. Ice Age did better than Fallen Empires, but both were spending time on shelves and game stores were concerned. Homelands launched with a print run of 220 million, and this was the card we were all so excited about.
Autumn Willow, neat art. 4 and 2 green, summon legend, so it does have the legend rule. Cannot be the target of spells or effects. That's never a fun thing to have to deal with. Pay a green, target player may target Autumn Willow with spells or effects until end of turn. What? Cannot be the target of spells or effects. Green, target player may target Autumn Willow. Oh, I get it. Okay. So you're wanting to, so you play this and then you pay a green, make it so that you're the target player. And now all of a sudden you could like put a bunch of like enchantments or artifacts or just suit out, just turn Autumn Willow into like Voltron basically and just suit her up with like all these things. And because she can't be the target of spells or effects, she's like immune to your opponent's stuff. And then that's pretty cool. I mean, like, I like that gimmick. That's fun. I don't know if that's good. Like, that kind of seems like you have to go through a lot of work to make that happen. But even so, 6 mana for a 4/4 that basically just has like this level of protection. I'm not really sure, like, to the degree that you have like board wipes or things that don't target it. So I'm not sure like how hard this would be to remove otherwise. This is one of the big things too with Magic compared to Yu-Gi-Oh! Because like in Yu-Gi-Oh! We would just summon a bigger thing and attack over this. But like in Magic, you can just choose not to block and just keep this around. And that's like a really big difference like in the combat in a lot of ways. Huh. I mean, for what I'm learning about old Magic is that it goes in like 2 extremes. It's either like just unbelievably insane, or it's like the worst thing ever. And so like this card is like, I think it's like a build around type of card. I don't think you're like slamming this in every single deck you're playing, but because it's not generic enough to do that, you still have to play green. And I think green, if I recall, has like a lot of those like pump type effects anyway to like make big thing bigger. Yeah, I think this is decent in the right deck. I don't think this is like the craziest card ever, but like maybe after the Ice Age and Fallen Empires catastrophe, you see this card, you're like, oh my god, this card's like actually good, right? Like Autumn Willow just laughs at the Polar Kraken, right? Yeah, like I think this is good. I think this is fine. In
you
the
think
right
you would
deck.
see play today?
Today, I could see a world where there's some crazy commander stuff that you could... I see it both ways. I see it that there's a lot of crazy stuff you could do in Commander to this, and having that protection is good. But I also see it the other way, that there would be a lot of cards nowadays that don't target. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has this same issue, where, like, as the game progressed, like, the semantics of the card mattered. So, like, we have our own cards with targeting protection, but then there's so many ways to deal with a card that has targeting protection that...
I would say that we have thousands of them in Magic as well.
Right. So over time, there's more answers to a card like this, and those answers also become more generic over time. I think this is better in older Magic, would be my guess, versus nowadays. And maybe there is a home for it in like a very specific type of deck, but I think it's very niche what that deck would have to be. So I don't think, at best, that's what it is, but under normal circumstances, I'd say probably nowadays this card isn't playable.
This card was the first time that they printed a creature that had this kind of protection.
Really?
It was the very first time they had printed something that you could use, that you could target and your opponent could not.
I can see why they'd be excited then.
Yep, people were like really thrilled about it. And the card did make the finals of the Pro Tour, and it was in a very popular Pro Tour deck. The idea being that you get this out and then you Armageddon and blow up their lands.
Oh, yeah, that works too.
Was the good card Autumn Willow, or was it Armageddon? And the rate did not age well. There was a 4-mana 4/5 that was really popular in the format. Okay. So, like, having a 4-mana card blank your 6-mana card was not a good look. And it's not like we were playing a ton of things to make this bigger and constructed, because, you know, you get 2-for-1 with auras or pants, you know, putting them on your creature. So this card, though, it saw a lot of play in that Pro Tour because it was considered the best Homelands card, the best the set had to offer. So you didn't have to run a bad card in your Armageddon deck. You could run this totally fine, mediocre card.
Why would you play Armageddon when you could just play the Polar Kraken? I'm just saying.
Dude, Armageddon counters Polar Kraken. Did you notice that?
Ooh, you're right.
Oh, baby. So, price of an Autumn Willow, and as you have now seen, despite being on the reserve list, the incredible difference in print runs.
They scaled back the print run. This was actually, like, good, in quotes. I don't know why. I feel like there would be something about this artwork that people would like. So, like, from a collectability perspective, I feel like that could go up a bit. Not by much, but it just has, like, a slightly higher desirability. I don't know why. It's just like a nice, simple artwork. Reserve list. It's not being played now, which definitely hurts it. I could see it like $10, $10, $15. Like something like, I'll go 10. I think that's like fine. Wow. How is the Kraken more than this?
$1.62.
What? How? There's no way. The Timmies are out of their minds.
Timmy like Big Monster, dude.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
like you said, there's something, this art is just nice. It's just nice art, but there's nothing particularly compelling anymore about this card. There's so many better ways to get the effect, but there's only one 11/11 Polar Kraken.
I guess. I still want someone to do my Polar Kraken combo that I just came up with. I think that'd be fun.
So, I hope the great takeaway of today, if you've stayed through this video, please leave a comment. I love knowing people stayed to the end. It's one of my favorite things. Hit stayed to the end. Put that in the comments. I hope that the big takeaway is when someone comes to you and says, I've got some old Magic cards, are they worth anything? There's a huge difference between everything before the dark, like Legends, Antiquities, and Revised, and Arabian Nights, and Alpha Beta Unlimited, and everything that came after. Yes, these are on the reserve list, but no, the prices are not the same.
The big takeaway is stop making me guess card prices because I'm horrible at it.